Good afternoon. Tuesday, January 9th at approximately 4 p.m. I'll call the Board of Water Commission meeting to order. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of December 11th. Do I have a motion?
I so move to approve the minutes of December 11th.
Moved, seconded, and so voted to approve the minutes of December 11th. First appointment. Miles, welcome.
Thank
you. Would you like to make a presentation to us on what you would like to do as part of your life project?
Sure. Pretty much I have a proposal to approve a life project for the Boy Scouts of Troop 49. I was curious about like the weather because it's not exactly the best weather for painting fire hydrants. It's like the soonest we can arrange a time because we have all the supplies. We just need it, and we just need to do it in a street.
What's the temperature you need for those that paint? Is it pretty?
I think it's like 50.
50.
Yeah, 50 or above.
Yeah.
I would think that we could conditionally approve it pending, discussions between Chris and our superintendent and Miles to come up with the plan to paint the hydrants, given temperature and weather conditions being appropriate.
What's the neighborhood you're planning to do? Do you know yet?
We've done it in Newcomb's Mill in the past, but we might need to. We could do a new neighborhood. That's
Yeah,
alright.
The area would be the Talon Farm, just the subdivision. It's just up the street from Lucas Mill. So that's that area needs to be done. So.
Yeah. So I move we have conditional approval and to 249 to paint some fire hydrants.
Moved, seconded to approve Miles Megan of Troop 49 to perform part of his life project in painting fire hydrants and as directed and by the superintendent Chris Baraka.
I'm sure you do a better job than my son.
He was a Boy
That
Scout.
was moved,
He
seconded.
was.
Do I have a second?
Well, he made it, you seconded it.
Right. So voted.
Okay.
Cool.
Have fun.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It really helps us out a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.
You probably won't be able to do it over school vacation.
Sorry, it's noisy out there.
Alright. Who knows this crazy world?
So our business is Christian Berger from Resilient Engineering.
Okay, thank you. The first on my list on the agenda is the Main Street Water Main Project. So we have the design is probably about 90% complete. So we're ready to submit that to Mass DOT. So I attempted to do yesterday and ran into a snag because they wouldn't let me submit it since I'm not a direct employee of the town of Kingston. So I sat with Chris before the meeting to try to initiate getting this permit started electronically. And, he was able to do that and is going to upload or email in a request signed form requesting I be given permission as a design representative to upload the documents so they can start looking at those. So hopefully be able to do that
Common? Seems like
tomorrow.
that would be something that would just normally be allowed to do.
I had arranged for a username and login ahead of time. Just so yeah, and had to email in the request, and then I followed up on the phone, which you can only really leave a voicemail. But they did at least get back to us yesterday afternoon to say, okay, here's what you have to do, which was a little cryptic, but I was like, oh, Chris, I think I can't even initiate the permit. I think you have to get on there and initiate the permit. So
That's never been the case in the past.
yeah, it's probably a newer system that they have.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. So yeah, but it seems like at least there's been some progress and hopefully be able to upload those tomorrow. So at least it's in progress.
It's the best we can do.
Yeah, I know. I'll try, but yeah. in the meantime, we're moving forward with things. The county, Plymouth County had sent out a memo looking for some updates on the anticipated detailed, they call it the detailed plan for how the town expects to utilize any remaining funds for that ARPA funding.
Yeah,
Stacy forwarded that to me, so I took the detailed plan to mean a schedule of some kind. So I put together this draft schedule. It's probably more detailed than what the county was really looking for, but I thought it was helpful to kind of lay it all out to see the milestones that we need to hit.
It's
So it
already
would
the
be-
deadline they were looking for, so.
Yeah, right, and yeah, they wanna make sure that it's all gonna get done by the end of the calendar year.
Mhm.
So looking at this, we're at the top here, looking to submit that DOT application this week. And we're on track to have the specifications done this month, and then we'll get those over to the townhouse. They like to review the front end contract part.
yeah,
And then Chris can review the technical specs. Hoping that DOT will be able to stick with a 2-month review period and get us responses in around March 9th or so, give or take, and then we'll do whatever response we need to do within a week. And then they should be able to do their approval pretty quickly after that. It's, not a real difficult project. Any responses that they have, we'll just make sure we address those as cleanly as possible, so then they're able to issue that final permit approval. I think concurrently, once we get the 25% review comments, we should pick a date for bid advertisement and just start that process.
all right, yeah.
Keep that moving forward.
Mhm.
So I'm showing that starting in early April, with bids due around April 24th. We'll take a week or so just to review the packages, the low bidders, contact their references, make sure everything's all good. And then it would be the board notice of award. Right now I'm showing that May 14th, because would be your regular routine meeting date.
Okay.
If
Sure.
we are bidding in the end of April, we might request a special meeting outside of your normal window, just to
Yeah.
keep that moving forward. But for now, we can wait until we know what the actual bid dates are
Okay.
before doing that.
Mhm.
For now, it has a little cushion by having that date for the 14th. Once you do that vote, the next thing would be to get the contractor going on pulling his bonds and insurance.
Mhm.
And at the same time, to keep the project moving forward, I will ask him to start pulling together his shop drawings and getting those in.
The good part is the shop drawings aren't extremely technical. I
No.
mean, hydrants and valves and pipe are pretty much, straightforward.
Right,
Unlike a treatment facility or a well site,
Oh,
which is
exactly.
different. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's,
Mhm.
and it's readily available equipment at this point, materials, so.
Mhm.
Looking to get the contract with him fully signed by the end of May. We'd wanna have a on-site or, in-town pre-construction meeting with the contractor, water department, police, fire, and we'll attend
Mhm.
by June 12th, can be sooner, depending on people's availability. And looking to have on-site construction start soon after it, somewhere between June 17th and June 24th, to have them actually out there starting the work. Depending on, if school's out, they can get started right on Main Street at that
Yeah.
point and have the summer to do that. So then they'll be able to complete that by mid to late August, the Main Street work, and then they can shift over to Hillcrest Road in September. Get done with that. That'll only take them a couple weeks. And then they'll be able to come back and do final pavement repairs by November 5th, 15th or so. And get it all invoiced.
On the final payment, any chance the state will put off final payment until the following spring? It doesn't have to, I just wondered, I'm just asking you a
Yeah, I
question.
don't think they'll put that specifically in the permit. The only snafu with that is for the ARPA funding, all the final invoices need to be in by
Yeah.
November 30th.
Right.
Now, with
Yeah.
this project, we will have a performance bond for the contractor. So they are, you have that bond for, it'll be, the standard is 1 year. You can
Yeah.
require one that's more than 1 year to cover the paving if there's any concerns with that. So if that is an issue with the paving over the winter, you have this bond, so you can say in the spring, look, if you don't get back out here and address this, we're gonna go after your bond. And they're not gonna want that. So that's the.
The other concern is, whether or not our highway department would want to push off Hillcrest till the spring. Sometimes he's done that to allow additional settlement, but, water pipe's a little bit different than sewer pipe in the depth that they're going, so the settlement is somewhat less. I just want to make sure that,
Right.
as we look forward, one, Chris talks to Paul to make sure that, they're both in line with what we're trying to get done by November 30th.
Right.
You don't want him to come up last minute and say, hey, we need to put that off until April of 2025. So.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that would be a good question for the county where they're not funding 100% of the project. If they needed us to break out on the bid form, even something that was, ineligible for the ARPA funding, that final paving, we could do that, and then you're not restricted with the having to get that done by the November timeframe.
Okay, just to keep that in line, and we may want to check with Tom O'Brien and his office, somewhere, along the lines as we progress to make sure that we've got that, covered correctly and completely.
Okay.
Thoughts, Bob?
Nope, sounds good. I mean,
Any thoughts, Mr. Koska, from somewhere in Hawaii? I can't believe you're even sitting there. I expected to see you somewhere on a beach,
I tried to set up on the porch overlooking the ocean, but the sun was making it almost impossible for you to see me. So
and I want to know that we feel sorry for you.
I'm sure you do. That's why I decided I had to sit inside.
you made us look at you instead. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We're better off at the sunset than looking at you.
Looking
But
at
what the hell?
All right.
Okay, Kristen, thank you.
Yeah, so that's the Main Street project, and let's see, next we have, the Water Management Act grant project. So as you're aware, the state accepted the town's grant proposal to conduct a source capacity evaluation. That's looking at both your sources of supply and your storage capacity in comparison to current and projected water demands. And if you need additional supply, which we know you do, and then taking about how to look at the storage, specifically for the high zone, and potential locations using the hydraulic model to see what that does, and being able to identify more of like a property and coming up with the rough cost estimate for, what is it gonna entail, how tall of a tank, what's the volume, where is it located, are there infrastructure improvements, water main improvements that need to be done to balance out that zone. So that's a great part of that project. And then the second part of that project is the water rate evaluation, which will involve development of an Excel-based rate model that I'll make for you. And I've done these for a few other water suppliers. And it is still somewhat of a complicated Excel document, but it is something that once I have it set up, you'll be able to play with it a little bit and changing, well, what if we change the rate to this, and what does that do? So that'll be a useful tool, especially, this year with the challenges that you face with having a drop off in demand and the associated revenues. So we'll take a look at all of that as part of this project as well. So this grant was one of 6 grant proposals that was accepted by the state, so very competitive program this year. So
It just shows the excellence in the presentation and the submission.
and it's, and they're aware of your challenges with water supply and having the moratorium on too, so that, helps them to see that it was important to fund. So this project has a deadline of getting done by June 30th. So we'll wanna, once the state gives the notice to proceed to start, we wanna get running on it. Keep that moving too.
You anticipate, we just raised the rates from last year just for the short-term sort of issues. Any rates raise we need to do, we need to make sure we're looking long-term. What's the length of time you look out?
Yeah,
in terms of
5
the rates?
years.
5 years?
That's the industry standard's 5 years, because beyond that, it's just not representative, so they don't recommend trying to look at it longer than that. But we'll look at what kind of capital projects you have coming, and within that 5-year timeframe. And that impacts the goal for the additional revenue. And the nice thing about this spreadsheet is that, like, each year we'll be able to update that, what that goal is, and take another look at. So if you have a significant capital project, for example, like, the new well, and you have to do some borrowing to construct the pump station, chemical feed station, we can look at, all right, what's the annual payment gonna be? Because that's gonna get added onto your costs, and you'll have to make up that in the revenue, put that into the spreadsheet, and then play around with the rates to how do you get there. So it will be useful.
It's a useful tool that we can use on a,
Yes,
long-term basis.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
without having to have a whole rate study done every year, it's, once this is set up, you'll be able to just play with that model, a little bit, the Excel spreadsheet. So as long as I train someone. Chris
When you
would know
train
me.
Chris to do it,
Chris and Stacy both know how to use the Excel model. You don't have to, and clearly shade, don't change these boxes.
Don't touch.
you need to make
They
sure,
change
you
these.
need to make sure that Chris is well aware of how it works.
Right.
Is there a way to lock cells?
Save,
Yeah,
they
save
have
as,
to do that.
save as before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a great project to have, useful.
Good.
Useful.
Use Google Sheets, you can see the rest of that.
I'll save multiple copies.
Mhm.
The last thing is the earth removal permit from PK Realty. And you have a letter that I have some responses to some of the issues that were not addressed in the permit. Specifically, one of the big ones is the town's water resource overlay district bylaws specifically state that within that overlay district, prohibited uses include earth removal within 10 feet of the USGS historical high water table. And the permit applicant identifies what the water table was on one particular day in November. But there's nothing in there that says what USGS says the historic high water table is at this site. So without knowing what the high water table is specifically at this project site, you don't know if the earth removal is within 10 feet of that high water table or not, so you can't approve something when they haven't given sufficient information.
How do they find information on historic water table? Is that something that's easily accessible, or is that?
Yeah, there are some resources they'll have to look into. There's some around, like some USGS groundwater
Yeah,
wells.
so it's information they can find.
that they might be able to have to correlate to. They'll have to do a little bit extra digging if they don't have a well that's right on the property, that's a USGS well. They might have to do some correlating of that data. But they need to do, and come up with a plan that they can present to your board. And then you can say, all right, that's sufficient or not sufficient.
Incidentally, there was quite an article written in a local paper that covers Plimpton, Halifax, and Kingston. And I saw a copy of it, and I meant to bring it with me tonight. It's called Sand Wars, dealing specifically with this particular application. And there were a lot of questions were asked in that about, what the elevations were, and there were a lot of appeared to be, at least according to the article, and we weren't aware of the hearing that the selectman had initially, a lot of questions about the completeness of the application as submitted. And you've seen Kristen's comments on the application from an engineering standpoint, and the cover letter that we'll be sending to the selectmen, sort of expanding upon Kristen's engineering expertise, dealing more with a broader view of what this plan really is. And I think we rightfully call it's gravel mining with the idea of building a 4 acre, cranberry bog, and why we're taking 1 million+ yards of gravel out to build a 4 acre cranberry bog. And I think the letter that we're sending to the selectmen sort of goes directly to the heart of where I think the water commissioners need to be, as far as, absolutely opposed to the whole concept of gravel mining.
And I think excavation to me means you're digging a foundation, something that this is like wholesale removal. I mean, the level of that just seems to be a whole nother exponential part of it. So it's definitely concerning. Thank you, Kristen, for giving us that info. It's good.
Bob, have you had a chance to look at Kristen's initial comments back on December 5th, or the letter that we're sending to the selectmen that's dated January 9th?
Yes, I did. And I'm absolutely lockstep with you on this one, bud. You basically just expressed my point of view.
Again, in reading the article, they talked about, the head of Cardinal Cushing saying what a great experience, and that some of the kids love to go to a goat farm. And again, as I expressed at the meeting we had with the planning board, I have some historical experience dealing with cranberry bogs and the construction and maintenance of a cranberry bog. And that's not a part-time educational process. It's a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day operation, 365 days a year, no matter what the engineers say. So we will go forward with, at least my recommendation is we go forward with a letter to the selectmen.
Yeah, I agree with the letter as written. We need to do a vote. I will move the motion to.
I'll second it.
Moved, second, so voted to send a letter to the selectmen dated January 9th as written. And I will sign it and we will get it up to them within the next couple of days if we don't do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And God willing, I will be at the hearing on the 16th. Hopefully Bob will be there as well. We'll make it a full.
Next planning board? Or selectmen?
No, the selectmen,
Yeah.
it's a hearing on the 16th. I assume it's in the main, hall, town hall.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in the calendar.
At this point, I don't think we need to ask Kristen to be there because at best, I hope the selectmen will decide to continue the hearing. This shouldn't be a one hearing done and over with. I think there's a lot of complexities. I think there's going to be a lot of input from the town residents as well as conservation concerns and there's only one applicant. So I think to get the answers complete so that the selectmen can make a informed, justifiable decision, they need to make sure that the peer review is done complete and that they move forward with reasonable timeframes. Anything else on that matter, Bob or Bob?
I'm good.
He's good. Okay, let's move on then to, thank you, Kristen, for all your expertise and all your diligence getting us that information in those letters. We'll move on to the water superintendent.
Good evening. Just an update with trying to fill a foreman position. At this time, we did receive one applicant or person who was not qualified, and doesn't possess any of the drinking water licenses that we're requiring. I've been working with HR to see how that goes. We can explore all the avenues to post that position and hopefully find a suitable candidate for the position.
Is it possible we can coach someone else like they coach Tiger? All right.
As far as Elm Street water tank goes, the painting is complete except for the finish coat on the top of the tank, which will be done in the spring once the cell equipment's been relocated. Our skater equipment has been relocated back onto the tank. All our equipment moved back over. The tank is now full of water. We're currently held up from putting it online, waiting for USG to get out to put the mixer in the tank so that we can have that installed before we do our water sampling to put it back online. We're hoping to be out today. They did not make it out today, so they said tomorrow they would be out to get that installed. I asked them that the biggest thing would be to get the mixer and the cabling inside the tank, submerged in the water so that we can start out time to collect samples for bacteria analysis at VOCs. Once that's done, we'll be able to put that back online. The site has been cleaned up for the most part up there by the contractor. Things went well. Good to have that project behind us now.
Was there a break on Main Street this week?
Yes, we did have it wasn't necessarily a break, we had a leak. It was a old T that had been installed down in the area of Gone Bananas, which is like 38 Main Street, somewhere in that area.
It's not in the where we're fixing things up, right?
No, so looking at some old plans, but there was a T with 4 joints where they were going to put a hydrant in that area that never got installed some time ago. The 4 joint failed. We subsequently had to shut down a large area of town to isolate it, to cut out the T to put a smooth piece of pipe in and get water restored to that area. So it was a lengthy repair. The guys did a great job, but we had it done with I think unfortunately minimal impact, minimal disruption to residents as possible. So
If that's the end of that, any new business come before the board? We have one letter from Aquarian Water Company that I think we sort of addressed at the last meeting. It basically says it's suggesting we look at the decision on transition from a town water supply to selling it to a company like Aquarian for them to run the business. I think we've sort of put that whole concept to bed, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't think they would do as good a job as making a for-profit business.
I somehow don't see adding a profit motive to the work that we do is going to be in anybody's best interest.
I don't either. The other business we have is the vote on the approval of the departmental report for the annual report. Stacy had done an excellent job of putting something together, hoping that she wouldn't be here to correspond with us directly tonight. But the good news is her Surgery is now scheduled for the 22nd, so she's moving forward with a smile on her face, gritting her teeth. Do I have a motion to approve the annual
I'm
water
moving
department
we
meeting?
approve
So
the-
moved.
I'll second
Moved,
it.
second, and so voted.
Thank you.
The only other thing we have is the reuse of 32 Main Street. Is that the open air block?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They did have water service in there, correct?
There's a 3/4 inch water service that serves the property now.
What they're proposing, does that allow for, given the moratorium that we have?
That's the same questions I have. We're looking for, I believe it's 10,000 gallons for a startup. To reuse approximately 8,000 gallons. Looking for potentially 2,000 gallons per day from the municipal water system. Via a 2-inch water service, which does not exist on the property at the present time.
So that they want to upgrade the 3/4 to 2.
Yes. With a substantial more draw. What's the average household draw? They have what, 150, 200 gallons per person per day out of a house?
Well, I mean, the goal is 65 gallons per person per day. So, and then the average household's around 2.5 people. So maybe, like 150, something like that.
That kind of is, that's a huge increase. And it kind of violates the principle of the moratorium. If they could use a 3/4, I don't think we have any issues with that. If they want to
Right.
go that much and use that much water, really was kind of
Uh,
outside the.
Just as a question, do we have any idea how much water is used at the other car wash?
A lot,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, I know they have a 2-inch service that goes into that facility. They do recycle a lot of water. I'm not sure on their technology or anything of that type.
Again, all I'm saying is if we look at, what they're using, we've got an existing, car wash that's, a mile away. You've got to assume that the amount of water that this proposed location is proposing to use, it's got to be somewhere within the same range as what's being used at the existing car wash.
They're saying they're recycling water. Is the other one recycling water?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
They do? Okay. So,
It's not 100% recycled. They recycled X amount that's
Yeah.
Lost due to what's.
Well, this one isn't saying you're gonna recycle every drop either.
yeah, 80%.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they could, I would say, they have to investigate using this current 3/4 inch right now. And then once we have our moratorium lifted, then at that point, we can discuss a improvement. But until then, I don't think we'd be
They use between 250 and 500,000 gallons of water
a year,
a quarter.
a quarter.
Uh,
Yeah, we don't have that.
No,
water
we don't have
now.
that, we don't have that capability.
I think that this proposed facility is a much larger facility with a detail shop, several more self-service bays and a drive-through facility, so.
Yeah.
It's a bigger facility overall.
I think since they have a 3/4 service, they need to investigate using that. If they can't, then wait a year or two until we can get our moratorium lifted. And find out.
But keep in mind too that if they can utilize a 3/4 service and they still get the same volume of water, still the same volume of water going through a smaller pipe.
But
So
I mean,
it's-
it can't. If they're going to draw that much, can we reject that just in terms of how much water we anticipate them using? Because it's a service that's there, so the service is already there. If they can
The
access
service is
it.
there to service a single family home that if
Okay.
establishing a business.
And when did we discontinue the service to 32 Main? You know?
Let me go.
It's not a continuation per se.
That had to be
Few years ago.
8-10 years ago
Yeah.
at least.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
So make sure, so there is a hookup while they're already there, are they entitled to use it, is my concern? For whatever purpose, as long as the hookup's there, or since it's gonna be for a substantially different purpose than before, then I agree, I don't think we can afford that much water, I just don't want to be in a position where someone comes at us with lawyers and saying like, this hookup's there, we can use this, it's there already.
I think
That
that,
position.
yeah, I agree that we don't have the supply to meet the demand.
and it's not a continuation. I mean, even if it was there, it was shut off and done away with,
Yeah.
They haven't been built since 2013,
So
so it's.
So it's been 10 years since
Yeah.
they've had a bill submitted to them, so. I would say at this point, as long as we notify them ahead of time, saying, it's a great proposal, but however, we do not have the capabilities at this point, and that,
Yeah.
it's been 10 years since you've had an active service, therefore, we're treating this as a new service application.
Yeah, I agree.
It would be a new service application based on this increasing of the size.
Yeah.
I agree.
You agree, Bob?
Yep.
I keep forgetting, well, I didn't see that smiling face, John.
It's not even done, they were just looking for comments from us about that, right? So we can put those comments together.
Yes, they haven't even submitted an application, they were doing investigative stuff to see if it's a feasible project before they proceeded,
Yep.
so it's.
And make sure that we get back to the planning board as well with that, decision, so that it's not just us going to the applicant itself, but us going through the planning board back to the applicant. Do you have anything else, Stacy?
Just that updated allocated municipal costs Carol had sent to me, it had decreased from the previous vote, so, that just needs to be signed. And I can send that up to Carol, so she's gonna use that number in budgeting anyway, but she needed, a signature from the board.
What Stacy's talking about, Bob, if you didn't see it, is the allocated town costs actually went down a couple of $1,000s because of insurance. So we have to re-sign it, so, we approved it for 428,000, it's now 426,000, so. We save ourselves a couple of $1,000s.
If you need my signature, I'll be there Monday.
No, I just need Bud.
Okay.
Okay.
Just make sure you overlook the last, on the next page of the agenda there for the frozen meter at 29 years old street.
It's just, when the resident had a frozen meter, so we sent her a letter notifying her that we shut it off. Obviously, she doesn't live there, it's a seasonal house, so. I haven't heard a response back, I don't know if she's gotten it fixed or addressed or whatever, but.
We shut off at the street, so there's no leak.
Right,
Correct.
They will notify us when they're back at 29 Cole Street and want some water.
so, just to confirm, our next meeting is January 23rd at 4:00.
Meeting is January 23rd at 4:00, and unfortunately, Stacy probably will not be here.
You never know.
That's what you said last time.
Don't
Yeah.
jinx me, I know, don't
Promises,
jinx me.
promises. All right.
Stacy, good luck.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I don't know, you gotta go to the beach then, Bob?
I move we adjourn.
All right, I'll second it reluctantly.
Moved and seconded and so voted to adjourn the meeting and head back to the pool.